let's talk about the running back position. Samantha, I know there's a couple of people out there. You mentioned Connor down with an injury. I'm talking about Damian Harris in New England. Who are some guys that are on your radar to pick up in advance of week 3?
Unfortunately, the waiver wire pickings for running back are not that great this week, but I will start with Darrell Williams and Eno Benjamin. Those are the Cardinals running backs that did take over the backfield after Connor exited the game. Williams led the team in rushing with 8 carries, 59 yards and a touchdown. Benjamin had 8 carries for 31 yards. So that's going to be some kind of timeshare if Connor ends up missing time. I think like Darrell Williams is a very valuable type insurance policy. So he's 4% rostered, Benjamin's 11% rostered. So they're guys that I think that you can definitely get some value out of if James Conner sits. Raheem Mostert is an interesting name. So he obviously was very relevant for fantasy for a long time. He's now with the Dolphins, 43% rostered. So week 1, he was kind of like on milk cartons and it was really the Chase Edmonds show. And then this week, complete opposite, led the Dolphins backfield with 11 carries for 51 yards and that monster 42-38 come from behind victory. Also reeled in a couple targets for 28 yards. He is the RB20 entering Monday night. So I don't know if this is like an indication of how the workload split is going to go between him and Edmonds moving forward, but it is enough to speculate and want to grab him because he is a talented guy. He's dealt with injuries and he's also dealt with Kyle Shanahan's Shanahanigans in the backfield. So, he could certainly develop into that like RB3, maybe fringe RB2 type situation if Edmonds is not the guy there. And then, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Mostert, right? Because obviously they have McDaniel, who also came over from San Francisco. So he has some familiarity with the shenanigans as you're talking about. But when it comes to Mostert, for fantasy, Samantha, a lot of times I look at teams even more than players. I'd rather get a small sliver of a watermelon than a big target share of a grape. And so my question is, how much of the Mostert kind of ascension is also tied to the fact that, people need to apologize to the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa in general. We were talking a lot about Tua. Did he throw a great ball? How accurate he was? That's what Tyreek Hill had to say in the offseason. But 6 touchdowns, the fact that Waddle and Hill on these sides seem to be kind of opening things up for others. Is Mostert really kind of ascending because people are starting to believe in the Miami offense overall?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I am one of those people that owes Tua and the Dolphins an apology because he was all over my sit column. I don't want to say that I completely wrote them off against the Ravens, but especially with the way the game was starting, I was like, oh God, this is going to be a long day for them. But they really did show up in the end. So I think like if that's the Dolphins team that we expect to see now, I am a little concerned. Obviously, they're playing the Bills next week. So that could be a bad matchup for Mostert, for instance, and a number of the guys. But at this point, they're basically playing with house money, right? Like they're not expected to win the Bills game, but they could go in there and actually really shock them. So I mean, anything's possible with this team right now. They're looking really, really strong.
Yeah, speed kills in Miami. Maybe some more people are going to have to apologize. Trust me, I count myself among them as well. One other running back I want to ask you about, though, Samantha, is Mark Ingram in New Orleans. Okay. Now he's on a lot of people's boards to add, but he kind of split time with Tony Jones. And to be quite honest, does this really matter? Because Kamara was out in week 2. And as soon as Kamara comes back, doesn't he wind up with the lion's share of the touches anyway? To me, actually, Mark Ingram on the waiver wire is actually a fugazi, someone to forget about. What say you?
Well, it depends on what we think in terms of like Kamara's health moving forward. Now, this is one thing that in the offseason I was concerned about because when his suspension was looming, there really wasn't that guy. It wasn't like Alex Madison to Dalvin Cook or something like that. So I was like, oh, it's Mark Ingram. He's 32 years old. Like I'm supposed to get excited about that. But I mean, when you say he split carries, I mean, he had 10 carries for 60 yards. Tony Jones had 2 carries for 8 yards. So, I mean, at least to me, that game showed me that he is the backup. So if you have Kamara, I don't think it's a bad idea to roster Ingram. He is 30% rostered. Yeah, I mean, 60 yards isn't going to win you games, but it was also not a great game overall for the Saints, not a great game that favored the run. So hopefully there are better days to come. I mean, obviously they're playing the Bucs and that's just going to be a tough matchup.
Yeah, fair enough. I think for Ingram to really be viable, you need two things. One, Kamara to stay on the sidelines and a game script where New Orleans is winning in games.
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily what happened against Tampa Bay.